Hey guys, welcome to Careers Uncorked. This is Sid.
And this is Sharfuz and Sid. How excited are we today? This is like our fifth Careers Uncorked session and a Saturday. Dude, what's up?
Very, very excited. Fifth session. This is a huge milestone for us.
Yeah.
And for this milestone, we've got one of the coolest people on our session. So I'm really excited for this session.
Yeah.
But before we do kick off, Shafuz, for our people just streaming in, why don't you tell us a little about Careers Uncorked?
Yeah, dude, that's a really good question. Careers Uncorked. I think, dude, you know how we got out of college, and I think Careers Uncorked is a great way for us to catch up with our friends and go live and have some amazing conversation because they have some amazing, incredible stories. What do you think?
I agree. I strongly agree with that. I think it's awesome to be able to like have conversations with people and just live stream it because it's like an insider's view on everything that's going on, and it's pretty cool. I wish I had the opportunity to like watch some live streams back when I was in college. So this sounds super fun. But Shafuz, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little about what was your life in college and how did you sort of go about that process?
Dude, life in college, man. I don't know if that's the most fun story. Dude, I think as an international student, college I think was the best experience I ever will have in my life. I do remember trying to do too much, like academics. I took like so many classes. I signed up for so many leadership roles, campus involvement, and I remember my life just falling apart every single day on repeat. So I was stretched really thin. Like, what about you? What do you think? What do you remember from it?
No, I agree. I think a lot of people have this difficulty where in college you're trying to do a lot to either fill up your resume or just to gain a lot of experience, and you're not really sure what exactly it is that you should be doing. So that's really interesting. And just to like navigate back to that point you mentioned about like you doing so many things and being stretched thin, I think so many people can relate to that.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I think also like we got the chance to go to college with some amazing people, and I think one of the most incredible people we both knew very personally as as friends and someone we worked with throughout college is our guest today. And I'm super excited about her because she is one of the most incredible people we both met in college, and I think she had a great college experience, right? Like from all of her the way she went about it.
Most definitely. I think that's something I'm really excited to hear for myself as well. Because I mean, Beatriz was all over the place in college. She was like literally everywhere you looked, there was Beatriz there. So
I was trying not to.
One of the most well-known people in college that we had as well.
Oh, this spoiler, you just gave out the name. So I guess, yeah. So how about we bring Beatriz onto the stage? Because we've been waiting for this session for a very long time now.
How are you doing?
Hey, Bea, we're doing well. So excited to have you here.
Very excited to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Bea, so let's, I guess we all started with a little intro. Bea, just a little introduction about yourself.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Beatriz. I'm from Barcelona, Spain, and I came to the US for college, so 5 years ago now. I went to the University of Rochester, just like Sid and Sharfuz, where I double majored in economics and political science, and I double minored in Chinese and international relations. And after graduating last May, so May 2019, I started working with Deloitte last September. So it's nearly been a year now. So that will be a big milestone.
Wow, that's huge. So first of all, I'd just like to start off by saying congratulations on that milestone. That is absolutely amazing. And Shafuz, what are your thoughts on sort of Beatriz's college experience?
Dude, I remember like, cause I think Bea, because we were in the same class here, and Bea, you ran for a class council, and I just remember like everyone was just talking about you during the elections, like, yo, guys, you gotta vote for Beatriz. She's this incredible personality. She has all these great ideas for a class, for our class here. And that was our freshman year, like our first year, I think. And then you were in Senate, and I know the three of us were in Senate together, not flexing there or anything. But me and Sid, but yeah, like that's incredible. Like how you managed, like went through all about it. So when you look back at it, Bea, like what do you think? Like what was your mindset like when you were coming in as a first year student, like walking into UFR? What was it like? What were you thinking at that time?
Well, I think that as years go by, it's hard to remember, but I was actually, organizing all my files in my laptop, and I read through some of the things that I wrote like 5 years ago, and I was like, wow. So I feel like the main thing for me was passion. I was really passionate about coming to the US. especially because in Spain, you go to university and then you go back home, but we don't have the campus environment. So if you want to come to the US, it wasn't just academics. It was the opportunity of belonging to, to a bigger thing, to being part of a group and having my friends become like my siblings, because you live with them, you eat with them, you study with them. So it becomes like, like a family. So I was so excited that, when I arrived to U of R, I was amazed. Like, I had never been to campus, and just seeing that for me was incredible.
Yeah.
And council elections are one of the first things, and I was so excited to be part of a community, and I wanted to help and build that community so badly that I was like, yes, I'll run for it. But it definitely wasn't, I'll run for it at first, because I was a bit scared, to be honest. Everyone was new to me, and it was a new country. Even though I did speak English, it's still not the same, right? So there were a lot of factors that I was a bit scared. But in the end, I thought, well, if I really feel so strongly about something and I really want to build this community, I need to try. I need to go for it. And after that, I was like so happy with it that it was just like one thing after the other. And my first year I joined tons of clubs. I think I joined like 20 clubs just because I wanted to see what was out there. I didn't want to not do something and then regret not having done it. So I was like, I'm going to try everything. I definitely couldn't do everything. So as time went by, I was like, okay, this is something I really, really like. This is something I don't need that much. So I kind of, let some of the things go and stick to the ones that I felt passionate about.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think I really liked because you mentioned like just being as an international student coming in and just being passionate about like finding and building that community. I felt that way as I was coming in from Bangladesh, and I came in as earlier this part of the ECORES program, and I was like really scared, right? Like I don't know how to because this was the first time away from my family, and I came this far, so it was crazy for me just coming in as a first year. Like Sid, you transferred from Albany, right? Like how was that for you at that time?
I did, and I think really tying back into what Beatriz said, I think one of the biggest things for me to transfer over to University of Rochester was definitely having the ability to be part of a campus in the US that's so interactive, like where I could be part of clubs, I could be part of organizations, I could really do a lot more than I was able to do back at Albany. So for me, definitely, I think I would really tie back that into the experience that Beatriz shared.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Bea, as you were going through, I think students now also they at first you are so motivated to sign up for so many clubs at first, organizations, then you sort of start curtailing it back. How did you navigate this? How did you know that this is what I'm passionate about among all these amazing clubs? This is what speaks to me. And how would you suggest other students who are trying to figure out what organizations they should join? What are your thoughts on this?
So for me, and it doesn't have to be the same for everyone, but for me, it was, those activities that before going, I was just excited. When I was in Senate, I just wanted Mondays to arrive to have those meetings, and I feel like in the moment that you realize that there's an activity, a club, whatever it is, that you just really don't want that day to arrive because you really don't feel like going there, that might be a red flag, I think that it's you mainly go to university in theory, right? For the academics. So when you're choosing what to do outside of that, you really need to enjoy it. I think you need to have fun with it. Obviously, there's some things that are more serious, but even when you get a job, I feel like ideally you should enjoy it, like what you're doing. And I think that when you actually enjoy it, it's not only that you'll be happier, but you also transmit that energy to the people that surround you. So I feel like that is really important. And when things get rough, because no matter how much you like something, things will get rough, and there will be things that you don't enjoy as much. When you have passion for it, you'll be able to continue through it. I feel like if you don't really like it and things get rough, you might just quit. You might just be like, it's not worth it. But if you truly believe in it, if you have an ideal and you continue for it, I feel like that will allow you to succeed at it and to maintain it.
Exactly.
No, absolutely. I specifically liked how you said that you have to be like the club meeting is something you have to look forward to, and that's like a big signal. I think that's a very quantified way that other people out there can also use. Like, so whoever is watching, think about the next club meeting. Are you excited about it? Are you looking forward to it? Ask yourself that.
Yeah, and I feel like if I may add, when you're very excited about it, you will also no limit. I think if you're in a club, it's easy to talk about the club with people from that club. But when you really love it, you'll talk to everyone about it. Like I feel like my friends can attest that I would just tell them about everything I was doing. I was like so excited about it, and that allows you to get outside feedback. Sometimes you're so into what you're doing, and the people surrounding you also do the same thing, that you're not able to think outside the box, and that might happen. You're right. You're like in a roadblock. But when you're able to talk to other people about it, you also get outside ideas. It's like kind of like a benchmarking type of thing, right? Like you're showing what other people think. And I think that when you're participating in clubs on campus specifically, it also affects other students that might not be involved. You might want to get more people to come. And when you're getting outside feedback, that will also allow you to get a different perspective on the same topic.
Very true, very true. Just one thing I'd like to mention there is, Beatriz, you mentioned that you just tried out everything that was like available. And I think that's something that I would really like take a minute to appreciate, because people are scared. I remember when I first got to Rochester, I wanted to try out ultimate frisbee. I had no idea what that was. I knew that people throw a disc and you run, chase it. But like if you don't know a sport or you don't know what a club is doing, just put yourself in that situation, go learn. Everyone's new there. I think that's one of the biggest advantages that you can take, is just put yourself as a freshman, like you are a freshman, you're here to learn. So I think that's really, really important.
And I would say also maybe take your friends. So I know some activities like dancing, for example, that you might feel self-conscious, but maybe, tell a friend, please come with me. I'm a bit nervous, for the first few. And I feel like that is also very helpful sometimes to have that support of people that might also be first years and going through the same experience. And maybe they can go with you to one and you can go with them to another. And that will also help you to build deeper relationships with people.
Very true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just get a friend to embarrass you, get embarrassed with yourself, right? It's always fun, and that's like the great experience. I was gonna ask. So just to Bea, I know as we are talking about this campus involvement kind of a thing. So you have some amazing, you had some significant experiences throughout campus. So you were in class council, you were in student government. So what were all the what was the most significant experiences for you, in campus involvement leadership wise? What? Yeah, just
on those. Very difficult to choose one. I think that all of them build up on each other. So in class council, I was for 3 years. And I mean, those people from class council for me are some of the most important people in my life. They grew on me so much over the years. And I mean, one of them, Jen, it's still nowadays, he's still one of my closest friends. And I feel building that community, even though it's not that fixed on leadership, but the fact that it builds your friends, your community. I feel like that was something one of the highlights for me, the fact that I could go to them with a problem and know that they would be there for me. So I feel like that was very important. But definitely something that I was very excited about was Senate and bringing solutions. So one of my things were the international student community, being able to build a community for international students, because that was something specifically at U of R that I always noticed, the conversation about diversity. But sometimes all international students are put into the diversity bucket without realizing that a lot of international students might not come from diverse backgrounds, right? You might come from a background where everyone looks like you, everyone is like you, everyone thinks like you. And so not necessarily for the fact of being international, you have that, that diversity of mind. And I think that is something that sometimes a lot of U.S. universities miss. And I think it's important to take into account.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think as an international student myself, and I think I could speak it for a lot of other international students, the efforts you gave to really represent the voices of international students, I think it was really incredible. And I think it's all those efforts together impacted so many students and are impacting so many students who are coming into UFR. Like I know from Bangladesh, UFR is like one of the more favorite universities to go to. For my country as well, there's a lot of applicants coming in every year. So it's really great to see, like your school being one of those like dream places for people to have like their academic education on and start their life. Yeah, I think that's really incredible.
Very true. So Beatriz, why don't you tell us a little about how you spent your summers throughout college? Did you have any internships or any other opportunities that you were taking along?
So in terms of internships, my first internship was my first semester, my first year, my first semester. So I applied before coming to the US. I was in Spain in summer with my family, and I was just like so excited thinking about coming to the US. And I've always been very into political science. And so I was thinking, okay, what could I do? Not just on campus, but what could I do when I get there? And so in Spain, especially for undergrad, internships are not a thing. Like in the US, we don't have the structure, the resources. So I was like, okay, that would be a really cool opportunity. So I just typed like political science internship opportunities in Rochester. So I found the offices that the Senate has in Rochester. So I saw that the deadline was a few days ago, and I just called them, and I was like, I introduced myself and I said, I know the deadline has passed, but I'm not even there yet. So I just was not aware of this opportunity. Would you please take my resume? Like, can I just apply? And I don't know if they were like, this is weird, let's say yes. So I submitted my resume, and a few weeks later, they emailed me and said that if I could interview next week, and I was like, I'm in Spain, I can. So I told them this is the day I arrive, and they were like, okay, we want to meet you the day after. So I went with my mom. My mom went with me because she was helping me move.
Yeah.
And I had never been in an interview, and I didn't know how it was in the US. So I feel like there were a lot of things going in my head, but I did the interview, and that was my first internship and my only internship in the US, because for the rest of the time, because I didn't get to go home, for me summers were the time where I could see my family. So I made up my mind that if I took internships, it would be back home, so that at least I could be close to my family, because for me, family is the most important thing in the world. Yeah. And so I did. And so my first summer, I did 2 internships. I did one internship in the consulate of the Dominican Republic in my city, in Barcelona. And then I also interned with the mayor of a northern city in Spain. And so for me, I feel like I was really nervous about that because of this lack of structure that I just mentioned. They didn't really have opportunities for people to intern. It was more a cold call where I just called them and said, I'm just really interested and I have all of these ideas. And so they received me and they were like, okay, we'll have you. But I feel like this is something that I would say to any international students. If you can't stay in the US, some people might be for personal reasons, some people might be financial reasons, and you go back home, don't shy away from the fact that maybe in your country they don't have internships, or maybe the fact that you just finished your first year. Look for them, literally call, send your resume. And I would say more than sending your resume, it's talking to them, because sometimes they see it and they're like, they don't really have experience. Never mind. But when you talk to them and they see you're passionate, that you actually just want to learn, I think they're a lot more willing, to do this.
So that's really interesting. I think one of the most difficult things for me while I was going through my freshman year, sophomore year, and even until junior year, I never felt comfortable with what I could offer to a person offering me an internship. I never felt like there was anything valuable that I could do. Yeah. How did you get over that thing? Like, how were you like, maybe I can benefit them in some way?
Well, I would say that one of the things is being aware of what you know and what you don't know. And sometimes it's just saying, look, I don't know. I know I don't know as much as you do, but I'm willing to learn. And I think that is sometimes what it takes, right? To be willing to learn, because we all start from nothing, no matter what career you go into, even if you studied that same, degree and career are linked, you will not know a lot of things. But if you're willing, like that willingness to learn, I feel like it's key. And so I think that one, saying that you're willing to learn, and two, saying, sometimes those people tend to be older, and sometimes it's nice to have fresh ideas. And I think that is something that you can always bring up to the table, right? You might not have the knowledge, but you might have had that outside perspective, and especially if you're international in your country,
Yep.
you're bringing ideas from a different continent. And I think that that is always very useful. If they can tell you something and you might say, oh, in the US, they explain it like this, or I saw it in this way. And I think then that merger of different ideas, I think that it can also be very helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I just would wanted to say, Bea, you mentioned how you got your internship experiences. Like, you were proactive, you called them, you pitched yourself, you got their attention, and you earned that first call, the second call. And I think just to take a moment to highlight how important that is, and especially nowadays, even like Sid, like our last session with Grace, she was encouraging students to be proactive and like find those opportunities, especially in this COVID time. So I think that's a really great example of what you did, Bea, like that other people should be inspired from, and just do it. Make that call, even if that job is not there anymore, right? Just still make that call. I know, I think that's really cool, right?
Most definitely. I would agree to that. I don't know. I think Bea's story really just highlights that, like you said, the job was closed and she was still able to apply and get the job. So that's insane.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And I just want to say, people might ask, and were you not scared of, And of course I was, I think that's something very important to be aware of. It's just that the excitement and that I had of having the opportunity of doing something I couldn't back in my country, and the I felt for the subject was higher than the fear I had.
Right.
I think that's the thing, to very important to just focus in why you want to do it and why you love what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm quickly just sharing this. I think mindset that I had when I was a first year and a sophomore, and I was looking for an internship as an international student. And I don't know, I think a lot of international students may feel it that, okay, coming into America, your goal might be to settle in America. And you might think, oh, if I go back to my home country and get an experience, it will not be valued in much in America. So maybe a lot of students may feel that, let me put all my efforts into getting something in America, then in my home country. Like what's your take on that, especially for current international students?
I would say you never know where life goes. You never know where you're going to end up, and you might want to stay in the US, but especially with the political situation, you might not have the chance. And I think that it's very important to not limit yourself. I actually wanted to go back home. I didn't want to stay in the US, and it's just an opportunity came and I decided to take it. So that's what I mean. You never know what is going to happen. And I think it's very important to be open-minded about it. And so I would say that as long as you're able to learn something that you can talk about, it's important, right? So sometimes, depending on what which country you're from, but you might be able to get chances of doing things you might not get in the US.
For sure.
Because in the end, the US is more, comparing it at least to mine, but more like structured, more hierarchical. Well, I feel like in my country, people are more like, oh, you want to try it? Go for it. I feel like a lot of countries will be more like mine. Some might be like the US, but you might get that chance of more flexibility, or people being more willing to trust you and just be like, sure, try it. And I think you can bring that back to the US if you want to stay in the US and say, I didn't stay here for an internship because I wanted to be with my family or because I couldn't afford it. However, I went back home and I still feel passionate about this area, and this is what I did. This is what I learned. This is what I was able to contribute. And I think that they will still value it. And if they don't, maybe that company, it's not for you, right? If they're going to value something that you value, maybe that says something about them.
Very true.
Absolutely, for sure. I think that's definitely something for people to note when they're trying to pick a company that they're trying to work on. If they have the opportunity, okay, if your values align with that company's values.
I think that's a very important point, Who's for me, so I interviewed for U of R for admissions, international students, prospective international students. So as you see, I was always very involved with the international student area, and I think that was something when people asked me, what do you like about U of R? For me, it was the people. People was the thing. The people that I know had just a great impact in my life. And even nowadays, it's the thing that I miss the most from U of R. And I think that relays onto companies. If you don't like the people you're going to be working with, you're not going to be able to be fully happy. And that's in my opinion, right? I think that you need to enjoy the people that you work with.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, I really miss the people as well, right? The people and late night Dougie. But I miss the people. Hey, what do you miss?
Let's see. I miss the library. I think I spent a significant amount of time there in my senior year.
Yeah.
So I do miss the library.
Studying.
And, yeah, and also that one room in Wilson Commons where we spent every Monday evening.
The go-in room.
Government. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a great question, Bea. Since you mentioned about your the things you're doing for like international students, you've been doing so like throughout college, before college. What were some of the biggest challenges that you personally faced that you had to overcome to get to where you are, being an international student?
I would say for me, language was one of the biggest things. Language and culture. So language in the sense that I was really scared. Like, to be honest, I mean, I was going to say between us, but between everyone that's listening, I guess. When I decided to run for Senate, but especially when I decided to run for president, I remember before one of the talks I had to be part of, I called my mom crying. I had a lot of anxiety because I was like, what if they ask me a question and I don't fully understand the question? Because there's still words that sometimes I miss, or even worse, what if when I explain, when I answer, I'm not able to convey in the right words what I'm trying to express? So sometimes, there's words that get missed in translation. And for me, the biggest fear was to be asked and maybe offend someone because I wasn't able to respond correctly because of a mistranslation. That was, being able to, step out of my comfort zone. I feel like that was a really key thing for me and something that was scary for me. And then on the culture aspect, I think it's because sometimes the way in which you express yourself in a different culture is different. And sometimes I was scared that if, how I said something might be taken the wrong way because, maybe some cultures are more confrontational or more blunt than others. And sometimes I was scared that I would say something and just offend someone without trying.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I was just gonna say, I think this comfort zone is something like that. I think me and Sid, we also like try to like go out of it and just challenge ourselves. But I think in college, I guess that's the most learning opportunity, right? You consistently do things that challenges yourself, and it just I feel like college. I think I started looking college into as a place where it's like the learning ground. Like even if I make mistakes, I rather make mistakes now and learn it now than later in my life, right? And there's like incredible people around me who's gonna support me. Yeah, right. Like said, like I think you also had like the similar mindset, like among all the things you did in college.
I did, yeah, definitely. I saw like a lot of personal growth on my end, in terms of towards my sophomore junior year, where I really stepped out of my comfort zone, really sort of became public, started talking to people and stuff like that. Before that, I was in like my tiny little circle of friends. So definitely, I think that is major. But as we are on this topic, we actually do have a question from the audience. I'll just bring that up on the screen. So the question we have from Tong Tony is,
Tony,
I feel like writing to or willing to learn is a bit of a cliche. In my experience, I feel like a lot of people put this directly on their cover letters. How do you differentiate yourself further?
Well, I mean, I don't know you, right? So I'm not sure what things you feel passionate about, but I think that willing to learn is just the idea. It's not necessarily that you tell them word by word that. I think it's more that when you express your interest in the subject, you show that you're willing to learn. If that makes more sense. So I think that you should, you're able to read people when you talk to them, and maybe it's not saying, "Oh, I'm willing to learn," and that's all you say, but more that you express by what you studied, what subjects you took, maybe what you learned in those classes, what projects you did, what extracurricular things you've done around the subject, and what things you can bring to the table. I think that can differentiate you a lot. And I think that if you explain that, this is what I know, this is what I don't, I think you need to be very honest with yourself and with the person you're talking to. And I think there's where you're showing that you're willing to learn. Maybe you don't know something, but you will learn it because you love so much the end goal. I hope that answers your question, but I feel like that's what I meant by willing to learn, not necessarily saying the words.
I think that's a great response. And I think I'd really like to highlight about not necessarily just using the words, like you said, but actually showing that you've taken the time and effort to go learn more about the company, learn more about the industry, and like are actually wanting to grow your knowledge in that field. So that really resonated with me.
And that is something that I always found when we interviewed in student government. I found that a lot of people and I feel like that's along this question, that when I interviewed, a lot of people just gave a plain answer to whatever you were asking. Well, I feel like for me, the ideal that I was always looking for was the taking it further. So yeah, sure, this is the answer. So let's say I asked you how would you act when there's confrontation? And you can say, this is what I would do. But for me, it's a lot more powerful when you bring an example of when did you face confrontation and how you actually acted. Because one of the answers, the first one, it's more, I suppose this is what I would do. While the other one is, I already encountered, maybe not the same, but a similar situation, and this is what I did. I think that speaks a lot more about you as a person. I think that's the same with willingness to learn. Maybe you show, maybe you like research, and you had never done research, but you talk to the professor, convince him that you want to do research, and when you're in an interview in your country, you're saying you had never done it, but you wanted it so badly that you learned how to do it. And I think that shows willingness to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely just being that proactive and going that extra mile. And as you said, Bea, like putting in examples, right? That's like I think that's like an exercise of responding to things in a way that's going to help you with job interviews and stuff, right? Because nobody is like, that shows you going the extra mile by talking about specific examples and what really happened, how you went about it.
And maybe you don't need to go for the biggest, most powerful and famous companies. Maybe you can go for a smaller one that maybe actually need more help and they're more willing to take that help, right? If you're in the US, maybe you can go for startups, right? I think that helps you grow a lot and they might need more help. So I feel like it's also being realistic and not saying, oh, if I don't get into this like top firm, I won't take anything. But actually, and you never know what you'll learn.
Very, very true. So thanks so much for this question. Again, we hope we were able to answer it well. But this is a great question once again. This is really funny, but I'd like to bring up the next comment and quickly give a shout out to Jamal, Vice President. This is awesome. So I'm just going to read it out really quick. So Jamal said, great to see you for our grads together. Love this question. Do you feel that college prepared you for life after, for adulting, for things that were unexpected after college?
I think that's a great question. Thank you very much, Jamal, for the question. I definitely think there's some things that you will never expect, right? You can't expect them. And I do think that for me, in my personal case, it did help me. I think that one of the things were the people, as I said before, the network of people, that when something unexpected happened and maybe I didn't know how to react, I was able to call them and say, this is happening, I don't know what to do. I feel like that is one of the key things. The network you build in college is something that prepares you for college after. And sometimes that means not only friends of your year, but maybe friends that graduated before you that you can call and say, I'm having this crisis, I don't know what to do, help. And then the other thing is I feel like the leadership positions and the putting myself out of my comfort zone. As you guys know, I'm in San Francisco. And, for most of the people that graduate with us, they stay more in the East Coast. And that has really been a challenge. And I think that comes to my belief in getting myself out of my comfort zone and meeting new people, forcing myself to go, to a different city and get to know a different part of the US. So I definitely think that it prepared me, but there's definitely things that were still tough. Like, it's not like you do leadership positions in college and you're prepared for everything. Definitely not. And I think that one of the key things for your question, Jamal, is that it prepared me to be more self-aware, to know when to ask for help, to know, when to realize it's too much, when to know this is my limit. I think that is one of the things that it prepared me the most. I've always been someone who wants to take on more and more things, and my leadership positions in college told me you need to prioritize. Maybe you can't do everything. And so that is one of the biggest things that has prepared me now for unexpected events.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a really great question, and I think especially also shout out to Jamal. I think he was the student government president this past year. So, and I think he's done some amazing things for the community in his time. So great stuff, Jamal. I was just gonna add, yeah, I think college, I think the more you challenge yourself in your extracurriculars, it gives you that conscience, or just so the way to I don't know, it prepares you for the uncomfortable zone, right? And it doesn't teach you everything, but it's still, I think it helps you get used to being challenged in a way. Perhaps, I don't know, Sid. I think that's something similar we heard from Grace as well as Evan, Rhythm on our previous sessions.
Very true. I think that's definitely a common consensus, is that really put yourself out there, put yourself in situations where you can use college as a safety guard to learn all these things.
Yeah.
That will be soft skills in the future, right?
Yeah, and I feel like, for example, there was something that I really wanted to do when I was in college. I really wanted to volunteer for the IRS and help lower income families to do their taxes. But with the amount of things I was doing in college, I couldn't. I compromised, to put more of my time. And so, I was aware I already have a lot of my plate, and I promised myself when I get out of college, this is something I want to do. And I remember when I came here, I looked up, and that nonprofit is only, in the East Coast. So I looked for one here in California, and I, studied, I took the test, got IRS certified, and have been doing that here in San Francisco. And so I feel like, don't forget those things that you might not have been able to do in college. And if you still feel passionate, in my case, I feel very passionate about, helping other people. And I thought, especially in a city where there's such a big divide, being able to help people do something like taxes, which is something everyone needs to do, but some people don't know how to read. I also encountered people that, maybe speak Spanish, but not English, so they're not able to read through it. And so being able to also do taxes in Spanish was something that they were in need of. And, I was able to do this now. And I think that is something that also college prepared me for the afterlife, to not remember where I come from, to not remember what I believe in, and to always try to help. And I think some people are like, oh, but you already have your job. Why are you doing this? And I think that is one of the differences, whether you're doing something for a resume or whether you're doing it because you want to help. And so I think it's something that when you're in college, you also need to reflect and see why you're doing the things that you're doing, which relates on the fact of, are you really passionate for it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I totally agree. There's really understanding why you're doing it and if you're really passionate about it. And I think, Bea, one thing you mentioned, and I sort of want to quickly get your insight on this. Like you mentioned about doing a lot of things together and wanting to do a lot of things, like having so many commitments. Like I really struggled with a lot of the things I signed up for, and that really harmed my quality of in my academics and things like that. So quickly, Bea, I just want to ask, what was your work ethic like and discipline like? Because you were involved with academics, with doing research, like honor thesis, and you had such mega commitment, being the president of student government, being in the class council. How did you discipline yourself, and what can current students take away from that? Would you suggest people?
I think that it teaches you to be very organized and to learn how to prioritize, but also how to use lost time. So what I mean by this, sometimes you'll get to class in 5-10 minutes. Maybe the professor is late, or, things like that. And I think that for me, I learned to use those small amounts of time. So for example, I took Chinese, as I said, and my first semester I was taking 18 credits because Chinese is 6, plus my internship, which would have been a 4-credit thing. So I was doing a lot of things. So I had to take the bus to go downtown Rochester. And that was I think it was 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And so in the bus, I would do my Chinese homework. I would practice and do all the characters.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I learned how to, instead of those 30 minutes just sitting there, I would get part of, 30 minutes when I was going and when I was coming back. So I would get part of my homework done. And so I feel like you learn to do those things, and you also learn to do things faster. But I do think that that's very important to be aware of your time, your schedule, and how to better use it. Because I think a lot of times we lose time. I mean, who hasn't been in, I don't know, in the library and gone to Starbucks to just get a drink? Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you need to rest, but I just think that being aware in the mode that you're in, your goals, and then just moving your schedule around to make sure that you're prioritizing the right things.
Absolutely. I think that was some really helpful advice over there. Should have asked you this question before when I was in college. Could have helped use that.
Definitely. Don't fear asking for help.
Don't fear asking for help.
And I was, I had that problem. I was not scared, but I just didn't want to ask for help a lot of times. And I feel like that's something that I learned, that you need to know your limit and when you need to ask for help. And you'll find that people are very willing to help you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely makes sense. So Sid, are we in our favorite time of the session?
This is, ding dong. This is the favorite time of our session. We're going to jump into the rapid fire round. Beatriz, are you excited?
Very excited.
Very excited. This is awesome. So we're going to get started. And first question I have for you. Favorite junk food, chocolates or Coca-Cola?
I think Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola? Okay.
All right. Yeah.
The top one.
All right, next one. Avocado toast or New York style pizza?
New York style pizza?
I could get that. Yeah.
Dream job or company to work for?
Company to work for? This guy's this is very hard.
Or dream job, you like whatever.
Whatever in this one. No, like.
Yeah.
I would say the area of diplomacy.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. Barcelona, Real Madrid.
Real Madrid.
Soccer wise, by the way.
But it's okay.
Okay. To all the Barcelona fans out there, Real Madrid wins this one.
All right. Favorite travel destination on your wish list?
On my wish list, I would say my city is the main one, just because I want to go back home. But if I could go anywhere in the world, I've really been wanting to go to Peru, to the Machu Picchu.
Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be really cool. Okay, something you wish you knew before graduation.
The asking for help part. It definitely took me a long time to realize. Yeah.
All right.
Oof, Beatriz, this is getting back at you for times at Rochester. So 3 adjectives that describe you.
Okay, I would say loyal. For me, that's very, very important. Perseverant, and flexible.
Okay. Yeah, just for background for people watching, Beatriz asked me this question at a random interview. Completely threw me off guard.
Okay,
I spent 10 minutes scratching my head like, what does that even mean?
My favorite interview question.
It's great.
All right, next one. Bea, tell us a fun fact about yourself.
Okay, fun fact. So I've lived in 4 countries, and I would like, before settling in one, to live in like 3 or 4 countries more.
Okay.
I don't know if that was a fun fact, but there you go.
That's pretty adventurous.
Yeah, just to fill people in, people who weren't watching, we actually had Beatriz on like 10 minutes earlier. We actually went through some of these questions.
I'm very good with fun facts, guys.
This was like the practiced answer.
It was rehearsed.
It was rehearsed, yeah.
Yep. But Beatriz, and now these are like interview style questions. So, how many trees are there in Central Park?
2 million.
Wait, what do you say?
I said 2 million.
2 million.
Okay, Bea, why are pothole covers round?
Because. Why don't you tell me, Sharpie?
What is round, Bea? And then it's a matter of perspective. A matter of perspective. So you want to take the last one?
Yeah, I was surprised that Beatriz, you didn't just be like, "Oh, I'll get back to you on that one," because that's the consultant answer, Beatriz.
I'll catch you offline.
Message.
All right, Beatriz. This is the hardest question we have so far. Favorite co-host, Sid or Shafuz?
This is a very difficult one, but as everyone knows already, because it's rehearsed, I think I'm gonna have to give it to Sharfuz.
Woo! Yes! Yes!
It's the first. That's the first.
3-1. But I'll send you a thank you note later. Yes, 3-1, finally.
But I love you both. Thank you very much for everything you guys are doing for all of the students. I think it's really
Yeah, thank you so much. But yeah, Sid, I guess one of the things I know we talked a lot about college, and I think there's so much more we just to talk about there. Another thing is like getting into consulting at a place like Deloitte. For a lot of students, that's like a dream consulting company to get into. Being able to break into consulting, especially like as an international student. Like, just quickly, why did you choose consulting? And also, like, how did you feel that this resonates with you? Like, when did you decide to get into consulting?
So I decided to do consulting last minute. I wasn't one of those people that had it very planned out. So I've always been very interested, as I said, in political science and in the intersection between business and international relations. Just because even though I think, it should be more separated, the reality is that it's not, and that politics really affect how business interact. And so I thought that being able to be in consulting could allow me to better understand the business side. I was more familiar with the political side, but I think that it's important to know both. And I really like diplomacy, and I would love to in the future go into the area of public service. But I think that having a better understanding of how business works would be crucial. And something that I look into is, for example, doing political consulting. So having a consulting background, but my passion for politics.
That's really, really interesting. And like coming from a consulting background myself, I think I can relate to a lot of that, especially on like learning more about the business side of things.
And don't get me wrong, like Sid, for example, I remember my first interview. The partner asked me, he was like, so I'm looking at your resume and you look very, political science directed. Do you know what consulting is?
Oh my God, they did not, really?
And I was like, I think so. I feel like I was at first, I think I wasn't that shocked about it because yes, international relations, political science has always been my passion. But I said that, right? I think that a lot of times in consulting, you have a lot of people that are very into consulting, especially at a business analyst level. I think that when you're older, they do get a lot of people that are specific to industries. But at our level, I do think that they're very focused on economics and business. And I think that bringing a different perspective is very important. Someone that, especially now with globalization, one business is not in one country anymore. You have the same company in so many other countries. And I think that being aware of, political stability, of how a reaction, I don't know, Trump says something, tweets something, it doesn't just affect the US. It has a large effect in other countries. And how does that affect companies? That is something that I feel very strongly about, and I feel like it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. I was so what does an average day look like for you, like with consulting? Because I think a lot of people have this idea, it's such a fun, exciting life. You get to travel a lot, and I don't know. So yeah, what does it look like?
Now we're definitely not traveling, right?
Yeah,
I think the coronavirus has changed it a lot. But my regular week would be traveling from Monday to Thursday, and then Fridays I would be either working from home or working from the office. I think working from the office is great because you're able to meet with your teams and with people that you might not see every week because we all travel to different places. But I definitely think sometimes it's challenging and I need to work from home to be more focused. So there's that there. And I think that especially now, I feel like there's a lot of calls, different people that you're talking about. And I think that you work a lot with PowerPoint and Excel. But I feel like I've worked more with PowerPoint than with Excel. So I feel like it's a lot of, I think it's very important to be realistic when you go into an industry and not into consulting, and not think you're gonna be doing this and then find yourself doing this.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of misconceptions, and I definitely was someone to blame for it too. I came in thinking I would be doing something a bit different. But I do think that especially the first year you're in it, you're learning what they call the basic core consulting skills. And I think that's very important to learn in order to be able to take that next step. So I would say that if you get in and maybe your expectations are not being met, also be patient. Just remember when you were a first year in college. And I feel like that also shows, right? Like at first you're new, you don't know that much. You're trying to get used to it. But I think the expectations part is very important, because otherwise, you'll find yourself feeling like, it's not a thing for you, and maybe it's not, and that's okay too.
Very true. So since you did mention about PowerPoint and Excel, I was curious, what would you say are typical soft skills and also hard skills required for a consultant?
So I really think that, and I mean, you can also give your opinion as you also but I definitely think that being able to do teamwork is crucial. Being good at communicating. And I don't mean being a good writer. I don't mean being a good speaker. I mean saying, I have all of this work. I won't be able to get back at you until tomorrow. Just being honest, right? Being upfront. And you'll find that maybe if you can't do it, they'll just put someone else to do it. But if you say you will and then you don't, that's a problem. So that's what I mean by communication. I think that's really, really important. And I think that is something that you, for example, could learn in college, right? And then in terms of skills, I think it varies depending on what industry you would like to go into. I'm not sure about other companies, but in mine specifically, your first 2 years, you switch around, like industries and portfolios. So I'm in strategy and analytics, but I've done projects in human capital, mergers and acquisitions. And so you're able to see a little bit of everything. I guess goes like, with the club things, you join a lot of clubs and then see what you like, that type of idea. And so I wouldn't say I can tell you, a specific skill. I would say like PowerPoint and Excel, probably you'll use them everywhere, but then there will be specific areas where you'll be maybe more technical with like maybe SQL. And then maybe some will ask you to use Tableau to get those visualizations nicer. But maybe there's like certain industries that you'll actually have to do Python. And so I think that will depend a lot depending on where exactly you're going into.
Yep, very true. I can definitely relate to that. And as for skills, I mean, I would definitely say there's more sort of a need for the soft skills than the hard skills, because in consulting, it's your first job. They expect you to learn on the job. They're not expecting you to be like an amazing person who will like be like the Excel guru or like the PowerPoint god. Like you're going to be a normal person, but as long as you can communicate, you can give them like an impression that you can lead a meeting, or you can talk to someone who's like a partner or someone like super high up in the ladder. So like just being able to do so, I think those are like the core like skills they look for.
Okay. And another thing that I was just thinking while you were talking research, I feel like you do a lot of benchmarking. So definitely if you have any experience or, doing research, and I feel like that can be very useful. They'll obviously give you, each company what resources they usually use, but the art of searching for information,
Exactly.
How to find info.
how to Google search.
How to Google search. Class in college, how to use Google.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I mean, if you guys are trying to be consultants and you guys don't already know this, go follow some of the meme pages on like consulting humor and consulting comedy on Instagram. They're so realistic. It's really true to life. It's crazy.
But
also I'm a bit scared. Something seem a bit scary. But I would say I think that I can speak not only for myself but for you guys too, right? If you have any questions and maybe you don't want to ask them, in a live video, reach out to us. I feel like most people are very willing to talk to you, and so if you know anyone and you have a specific question and you feel comfortable asking it, definitely reach out to us. Like we'll be more than happy to answer anything. And sometimes questions are more person specific. So definitely let us know if we can do anything to help and make you feel more comfortable about your decision.
No, absolutely. So I think now this is what I guess, just to bring it together for this context, like, so I'm a sophomore or I'm a first year in college and I want to get into consulting when I graduate. What are the things that what kind of experiences I should engage with more? So I guess I'm hearing a lot about doing research stuff, doing like a soft skill. So would you say like getting involved in student organization leadership? Like, what would you say in a very shortly? Like,
I guess that if you're like a sophomore and you really like consulting, I know that there's some like consulting like groups, like there's business groups. So probably those will, I was never in them, but I'm sure that they will be very useful. Like I know, for example, iZone has a consulting group of people that work there and consult like groups on campus. That might be very useful for you, you know, if you're trying to learn more about it. So I definitely think that there's some that are literally consulting.
Yeah.
But if you're not sure, or if that's not for you, just follow your passion, right? I mean, I wasn't in those groups and I'm still doing consulting. So I think that there's no one right path. I think it's more important to do what you love, you know, to do whatever you're passionate about, because you can always apply that to consulting. So, you know, I don't know, let's say you really want to do consulting and you are not able to get into a consulting group or a business group. Don't worry, just do whatever you like. And you can always think of ways in which you can translate that into how that can be used for consulting. So yeah, leadership roles, something that you're communicating, research, maybe if you're doing research and you're using Excel, or I don't know, Stata or any of those systems, like anything really. I think you can apply nearly anything to consulting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very true.
So something like I consulted my friends with their lives. So yeah.
That might be a different type of consulting, but yeah, it definitely is consulting.
Yeah.
So here's my question, Bea. So I know like you've had an unconventional path of getting to like your job at Deloitte. So I'm curious to hear, and I think definitely the audience would also appreciate some insight on like how exactly did you approach the application process? Like how did you connect all that back to like your major? Like that was clearly a big factor, right?
How did I connect it to my major?
Your college major, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that goes about, you know, what I was saying about the interview, that they were surprised. And I remember when I went for my in-person interview, I was really excited to meet the people there. So I talked to a lot of the people that were waiting for the interview, and most people were more business or at least econ. Well, the focus has always been political science, but as I said, I just think that you can apply anything to consulting. And I think that the skills that you might not have, you can learn them. So I've definitely learned a lot about Excel and PowerPoint and how to, you know, move everything around and make it look pretty. I've definitely learned a ton. And I think the same that I said for college applies to work. You know, sometimes I don't know how to do something. Like yesterday, I was doing something more content focused. And I wasn't sure about the terms that you were using because they were very tech. And I'm not a tech person. And so I had to, you know, message one of the senior consultants and say, hey, I really want to do it. And now I have to replicate it 10 times. Can you explain to me once so then I can, you know, feel comfortable doing it? And again, he said, yeah, of course, you know. And I feel like it's that being able to ask, knowing who to ask. And so, I think that I haven't really done anything political science per se. But I think that when you do poli-sci, IR, you get a lot of skills of like, you know, writing, how to communicate an idea, how to read a document and obtain, you know, the main points. And I think that those are a lot of the things that you obtain from political science that can be very useful for that. That it's, you know, you can also learn it in other majors, but I feel like that's something that I've been able to translate into what I do. So unfortunately, even though I would love to do a lot of like, you know, Deloitte has GPS, which is focused on more the political, like government. But as an international, a lot of the projects require to be American. And so I'm not able to do them. Shocker. And so I think that, you know, that's why I'm in the commercial side, even though I had no previous experience. But But I don't know. I feel like you're able to translate some of the core ideas of what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. And
sure.
in terms of like the application process, did you apply through the portal, or how exactly did you go about that?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. I think it was my sophomore year. I was interested in learning about consulting because I had
Mm-hmm.
never really heard about it. And I remember I reached out to like recruiters to ask about potentially doing an internship. And then after the first talk I had, I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm going to tell them I'm not interested anymore because I want to go back home for summers. Because I was like, maybe I should stay in the US to do an internship. And then I was like, no, never mind. I want to go home. And so I had just talked to them about like, opportunities to do internships. And then after that, I just kind of forgot about consulting. I was all set on doing diplomacy. I had applied to grad school in Spain and gotten accepted. So I was basically going. And then my junior summer, they reached out to me and asked for my resume. So I never went through, what you were saying about the portal. They just asked for my resume, and I got an intern. And I think it was the interview like June or July.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me the in-person interview for August. But my junior summer, I went to Thailand for a UN conference, so I wasn't able to make it. So they gave it to me for the 21st of September.
Yeah.
And then around, like a week after, I got my offer. So it was all very, very fast. And for me, the biggest challenge was to decide whether I was going to accept it or not. Because a part of me, again, wanted to go back home, right?
Yeah.
But if this can help anyone, deciding that for me was very, very tough. And I talked a lot to my parents about it, but I reached the conclusion that that's why I say it's very important to not be to be open-minded, because, I thought, well, it's an opportunity that just came, and, you never know how much you'll be able to learn and to get out of an unexpected situation. And that's why I decided to take it. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So that's definitely not the conventional route. People don't usually have recruiters reach out to them, like being like, "Please come join us." So.
Recruiters usually don't respond to me, so I don't know. I don't know how you made that happen.
But if maybe a more general advice, maybe if you know someone in the company you want to go into, which you can check in like LinkedIn, for example, right? So to be able to reach out to them. So maybe not to a recruiter because you might not know them, but maybe to someone that you know in the company. They might be able to connect you with someone. I know there's a lot of there's companies that don't necessarily officially recruit at our university. So if the company recruits at your university, then just do it through the university. But if they don't, I would say the best thing would be to reach out to someone that you know, and ask them, how could I get in touch with a recruiter, or, go into the system so that you can hopefully reach to the interview.
Yeah.
That's insightful, because I know a lot of people are curious about how to get through that application process, because that's the biggest roadblock for a lot of people. It's like even just getting that interview, right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, like, what do you think is the biggest misconception about consulting? Like, you had like everyone has this expectation of what consulting is like. Now that you're actually doing it for like about a year now, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have before getting into the industry?
I would say a big misconception. Well, let me not say the biggest misconception. Maybe it was my misconception. I don't know, maybe because I'm not from the US and I wasn't that aware of consulting. It was just a misconception I had. I don't know if everyone has it, but I was under the impression that I would be able to give more my opinion, to do more content related things. Like I love writing. I love, researching and writing about it. And I thought I would be able to do more things like that. While I found myself that a lot of it was more, fixing maybe a PowerPoint at first. So that for me was a bit of a shock at first. But then I realized, well, obviously, I need to first learn this to be able to then go to the next step. And so I just focused myself a lot on improving those skills, realizing that maybe it wasn't my expectation, but it's reality, and, I feel like sometimes it's like I didn't want to keep myself on, oh, I expected it to be this. And I just talk to manager level people and say, I would love to do more things like this. I would like to do maybe more leadership roles. I would like to do more, writing based. And so, for example, like I helped, I'm writing the undergrad case studies. So I feel like that is more content based, and you can use more, your original thought process in order to be able to write it. So I think that just being aware of what your expectation was, bringing yourself back to reality, being willing to do that hard work, that learning curve, to learn those things that you might not like that much, to then be able to apply them to what you really like. And so now I am finding myself that I'm actually doing more content things, that I'm actually being able to, when new people arrive, to teach them also. Like I was in a client project in which when I arrived, I didn't know how to use their technical things, and I learned how to use them, and then I trained new people that came into the project and the client side on how to use it. So I enjoyed that second part a lot more, but I had to do the initial part in order to get to the second.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think definitely. I think that's really good to know, and I think it's great like how you adapted yourself to those challenges. I think that's really, really exciting. So Bea, I know you mentioned like the case studies and like doing all that. So just I think this will be very beneficial for our audience to know, and a lot of students, that how did you prepare for the interview a little, and like especially the case study, because I think that's a very frightening part of consulting interviews. So I just want to hear a little bit about that. Like what resources did you use in school maybe, or like how did you prepare yourself?
I had never done a case study before my case study interview. That was my first, because as I said, I wasn't very focused on consulting. So when they gave me the interview, I was like, I didn't really know what to expect. That was also a misconception. I thought it would be a lot more of like, who are you? How are you as a person? What is your past experience? And asked me that for like 2 minutes, and then they were like, case study, and I was like, what is this? So definitely, that was something that I wasn't familiar with. But how I took it is, I didn't see it as I'm being interviewed. I also saw it as, I also want to know if I want to be part of this company. And I think the energy that you transmit is also different. I didn't feel like frightened because they were interviewing me. I was like, well, I want to see, if this place is also for me. And so I also asked questions. And, I didn't wait to the part where they're like, do you have any questions? If I had a question in the middle, I see an interview more as a conversation, right? So when I had a question, I would say, oh, what about you? Or what do you think about this? And I think that for me, it's more of an interaction, more of a both ways. And so in terms of specifically the case study, I would say that some people focus a lot on doing tons of case studies. And in my personal humble opinion, that doesn't necessarily help that much. I think that if you look at hundreds of cases, you probably will find a pattern between all of them. But I would say that what a case study is trying to look at is, are you able to do some basic math? I don't think they have like really, really hard math. Are you able to do some basic calculations? But what it's trying to get at is your thought process. So I would say the most important thing, no matter if you've done 100 cases or none, is be able to explain what you're thinking. So if they ask you a question, don't just sit quiet thinking about it. Think out loud. Say what you're thinking, where you're going through, and sometimes they'll guide you. They'll be like, oh yeah, but what about this? But if you're not saying anything, it's really hard to be able to get that. And I think that when you have a group case interview, maybe it's easier because there's someone else talking. But when it's a one-on-one, sometimes it's more intimidating. So I would say just explain what you're thinking, even with the math part, right? If they ask you a math question, just tell them where you're going. Tell them, okay, so I think to solve this, I would be able to do this. So now I'm dividing this by this, or I'm multiplying, whatever you're doing. I would say that being very open about what you're doing. And I made a mistake. I made a math mistake in my first interview, but I guess that because I was explaining it, the part was like, oh, are you sure about that? And as I said that, I was like, oh, let me see. And then I realized, oh no, I did this wrong. And I said, and I explained that. Oh no, now that you say that, I'm like looking back, and I think this is and I explained it. And so I would say that even if you make a mistake in the middle of the interview, don't be scared. Don't think I lost all my chances. Continue and recognize the mistake, because I feel like that's a very big thing, not just for consulting, but for life. Being someone who is able to say, I made a mistake. Don't try to cover it up. Be realistic. Yes, I did this wrong. You're right. Thank you. Now I realize why it's like this. Because I think that, especially in consulting, when they're hiring you, they're aware that you won't know everything, and they're willing to teach. So I think being self-aware is very important for the interview.
Yeah, I think something that you said, which I found like amazing that you said, that is treating interviews like a conversation, and also finding out that if the company you're interviewing, if they're also a right fit for you. Because I think a lot of people may feel that, oh my God, I'm interviewing with Google, McKinsey, like all these big companies, and they're the dream companies. And I'm like, I don't know, you feel like more smaller, right? Because they're like these big companies. But it's also about you interviewing them and understanding if McKinsey or this big company, if they're the right fit for you, right? So, and I think that changes the mindset, that changes the energy. I think that's something I really liked what you said, and I think everyone should follow that. Like it's as much as about you understanding them as the other way. Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's great.
Yeah, I would very much agree to that as well. Like, keep it conversational. No, like don't really like get bogged down by like the fundamentals or like those techniques. Like like they're there to help you, to guide the conversation, but it's the conversation that matters, not anything else.
For sure, yeah.
Great about the wording. I think that sometimes consulting has a more specific wording, but in the end, you're saying the same simple things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're not as familiar with the word, just focus on what it's getting at.
Yeah.
And you will be okay. I mean, I think that if for you as a person makes you more comfortable to do more case studies, go for it. Like, I'm not saying, if you do more case studies, you're not going to do well. I just think that sometimes you focus so much on solving them.
Yeah.
That when they give you one that is a bit different, you're like, I don't know what to do now. Well, I think it's very important to just be open-minded, and maybe if you do 3, 4, get what the main points are. What are they trying to get you to?
Yeah,
so.
For sure.
Definitely. And like learn some buzzwords for the interviews. Like, call it a deck, don't call it a PowerPoint. Say please fix, like talk about like, oh yeah, this partner said that. What else? I don't know. What are consulting slangs, Beatriz? What do you guys use?
Disrupted cloud computing, using machine learning. I don't know.
Deck for me was the one that I'm still like not used to. Like I know when I'm talking to someone about it, obviously if it's consulting, I say deck. But like if I'm like telling my parents, I'm like, yeah, PowerPoint.
PowerPoint, yeah. No, yeah. Well,
I definitely think that if you can learn them, it might make you be more comfortable in the interview.
Yeah.
But it will not hire you because you don't know.
You don't know the words.
So just feel comfortable that what you know it.
Yeah.
And try to transmit how what you know can be applied. So maybe, I don't know, the case studies will vary, but I think you can always focus and put in something that you know into that interview. And I think that can help you also differentiate yourself on how you approach the same problem. So if they're giving that same case study to everyone, and you interpret it being honest to who you are, the chances of being differentiated are higher than if you're just solving it like everyone else, right? And so I think that's why I said that I feel like if you were doing 100 cases, you might fall into that standard way of solving it. And I think it's more valuable that they're able to see where you can actually contribute to a team.
Absolutely. For sure.
All right. So just swing in there. We have another question from the audience. So I'll bring that up to the screen. So another question from Tony. How do you go about asking for more responsibilities and duties without rubbing off your boss the wrong way? It feels like there's a line to tread, especially the latter part. A fine line to tread, sorry.
So I definitely think that I never asked for more responsibilities at first. So being aware that they also need to trust you, right? So I would say that at first, take what they're giving you and try to learn And then maybe when you've done it for some time, I would say that one of the things that I do is like ask for feedback. So maybe ask them, can I set up a call with you, to get some feedback on how I'm doing? And then when they're telling you how they're doing, if you're doing well, if you're doing bad, maybe it's not the time, but if you're doing well, you might be able to see, oh, that is great, but I'm also very interested in learning how to, take it to the next level, or it depends what you're asking, but, have more responsibilities. What do you think? Right? So I would say don't ask it as in, this is what I should do because I'm doing well. More like bounce it back. Oh, how do you feel about this? Do you think I would be able to? Would you feel comfortable allowing me to do something else? And then in terms of not being exploited, like I would say just being honest. I have all this in my plate and I really want to help you. But is it okay if instead of you expecting me to put 10 hours, I put 3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or saying, I have all of this due today, but if you don't mind me giving it to you tomorrow, then I can do it. So I think being very honest about what you have on your plate and asking them to be very clear about the timing. Like, you want me to do this. And sometimes they'll just tell you, I want you to do this. And at first I was like, for when? He didn't tell me for when. And so that is very ambiguous. So I feel like if you can ask, okay, yeah, for sure. What's the timeline? When do you need it by?
Mm-hmm.
And that can allow you to say, yes, I can do it, or no, I have too much in my plate.
Yep.
And I think that they will appreciate if you're honest. And I've had situations where it was too much and they were like, we need it by today. And I said, today in 2 hours, today end of day, and if it wasn't in 2 hours, I would say I won't be able to have it in 2 hours. Is it okay if I submit it before the end of the day? Most of the time they said yes. If they said no, then I might talk to the other project or whatever else I'm doing and say, is it okay if I submit this a bit later?
Yeah.
Because something came up. So I think it's just being very honest about it. But I would say that especially when you're starting, take what they give you. Like, don't be very picky and be like, I don't want to do this. Because you're also learning. And I think part of that learning is taking whatever you're given and trying, but obviously just being realistic about it. I hope that helps. And I feel like it's not just for consulting. I think you can apply to really any job where they're giving you a lot of things to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that was very helpful. I'm just going to quickly add, I think from my experience as well, one thing I think the communication and being honesty is like the main things to follow on this. Also, like, be very honest to your supervisor or to your senior colleague that, hey, given the fact that you are getting all your stuff done, like, but hey, I want to learn these things as well. The project you've been working on sounds really interesting. Do you think I could help you a little bit with that? Because a lot of the senior people, like, they wouldn't mind if to take things off their plate. You do their work, they go and chill, like
literally about this, like, I was helping with a proposal and I was putting together all the bios of the team they're proposing, right?
Yeah.
And I was pulling one of the profiles and I was like, I need to talk to this person. This is so interesting. I was fascinated by the experience.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him and I was like, hi, he's a partner. And I was like, I'm like helping in this proposal and I was just fascinated by your biography and I would love to talk to you. And he was like, of course, set up some time tomorrow. And this was yesterday. I talked to him yesterday and I talked to him and I feel like, so, that opened an opportunity to me on something that I really, really love, which is expanding offices into different countries, right?
Yeah.
And so you never know. I never thought that doing a proposal, I would be able to meet someone, right? And so I think that that's something that I wasn't aware. The opportunities and how people are really easy to talk to. People want to meet new people, and I feel like as humans we're social, right? And so just being mindful of everyone's time, but also, I don't know, don't set up time to talk to someone for an hour, maybe for 15 minutes,
Right.
aware of their schedule. And also ask them, is 15 minutes okay? Is this week okay with you? Or is it better next week? And I think that those things, those small things, allow you to, answering your question, to like not be exploited, but also taking further responsibilities. And I feel like you can also kind of see when you're talking to someone, if they're having a good day, if they're not, if they're in a good mood and they're very stressed and they have a lot of pressure from, their managers.
Yeah.
Maybe for tomorrow, just I feel like don't ask it because you want to ask it. Also be aware of your surroundings and how people are talking about your work. And I think that will allow you to ask for more responsibilities without, rubbing your bus the wrong way and without being exploited. And I hope that answers your question well.
Yeah, very true. I would add into that, but I think Shafuz and Beatriz have covered this so very well. But I would definitely say if there's anything that you could do apart from your regular job responsibilities, you should. That has been one of my most defining moments in my career, where I've gone above and beyond, done more things than every other like intern at Deloitte or every other person who just joined this company from college, because those things really matter, whether you look at it right now or later in the line, but it'll differentiate you from other people because everyone else is essentially going to be doing the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when you get in university, in a company, you're like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I can,
vacation time.
And I remember when I got my job, so I had my job offer in September, my senior year. And people were like, why are you in the library? What are you doing? At first, I was very confused. I was like, what do you mean? I mean, and people were like, oh, you got your job, so why are you working hard? Like, it doesn't matter anymore. You already got it.
True.
I feel like, to what you were saying, Sid, I feel like for me, it's taking it to the next level. Yes, I got accepted. Yes, they might not really mind my grades anymore as long as I pass. But that's on me. I always want to, excel at what I'm doing. And important, not comparing myself to others, but to myself.
Exactly.
So I know I'm capable of getting that far. Having a job doesn't really, take away. And looking back, I feel like proud of myself, for having taken it to the next level. And my GPA was at my best my senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot better than in the past years. And I feel like independently of if you have a job or not, just be true to yourself, be true to yourself. And if you like the classes, keep on enjoying them and doing well. I think it's just how you see them. If you see it as just work or as something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's some very valuable hard-earned lessons there that you just shared, just like the way to look into it. So no, thank you for that. I think that definitely, yeah. Thanks a lot, Tony, for that question. Definitely. That was very insightful.
Yep. So here's our next section. But before we do jump into the next section, Beatriz, I just want to make sure that you have lunch and breakfast and everything ready, because this has officially been our longest session ever.
So remember those moments when we were like, dude, you know what? Let's make this next session about 30 to 45 minutes max. Yeah.
That's how we lure people in. And once they're in, we just keep them here for like 2 hours.
In our defense, you're a great person to talk to.
I think it's useful for people, and that people feel free to, ask whatever they want to know. And I'm trying to be as honest as I can, and straightforward.
Yeah.
That is something that I wish I had when I was graduating, when I was a junior and a senior, someone that I could really ask questions to, and that, they would just tell me.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's really helpful. And that's why I'm very grateful for you guys, to be doing this for students.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was just going to say, yeah, you have always been a very helpful person, even like as a peer, as a friend, working together in different like organizations like Senate. And right now it shows like just passionate about helping other students, I think that's incredible. I think that's how community should be, like just giving back and just helping each other. Right. So yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you. I think it's very important to never forget where we come from, and how hard it was to get where we are at.
For sure.
I think sometimes it's easy to be like, I'm here and, it's all great. But remember, how much effort it took you to get there. And I feel like, that for me, that makes me want to help, right? That makes me want to, anyone that texts me, no matter if I know them or I don't, to try to help them and give as much advice as you can.
Absolutely. No, definitely. And I think this is definitely officially our longest session ever. I think our team at the back is telling us that, yo guys, what's happening? Yeah, it's incredible. Like, I think there was like so much stuff like from just being in college and like being in career, like just working at consulting wise. I think this has been so like wholesome so far, honestly. But yeah, Sid, what were you thinking?
So here's what's next. I think we should talk a little about your recommendations for people in two situations. One, the first being people who are actually impacted by the pandemic right now, people who've lost their internships or their jobs that they were supposed to start. What do you think is the best step of action they should take right now, like in their free time?
I would say learn. I think it's never too late. You're never too young or too old to learn. And I think that if you don't have anything to do, of course, get some rest, but use your time wisely. And really depends on what you like doing. Read, write, go to Coursera and, take some courses. Depends on what you want to do, like learn how to use Excel. Or if you're interested in politics, maybe take a course on international, politics, or if you like law, take courses on law. But I think that learning is one of the biggest things.
Mhm.
And I think that, yes, of course, people that are going to employ you in the future will be understanding that these times are hard. But I think that, you guys use this time to say, what can we do to help, and created this amazing platform. So I feel like that is what I would challenge everyone to do. To Obviously, there's some people like me, right? Like you're working from home, so you might not have as much time, but just being aware of your time, just try to do something different. Or I don't know. I feel like even things that are for personal growth and not necessarily career focused, but I've tried to learn how to cook. You know, I've never been good at cooking, and I'm trying to do it very hard. Not gonna, but that's something that I have also tried. Okay, now I'm more at home. Let me try to learn more. And I don't know, I've taken on some courses as well, just for curiosity, just because I like learning. So I'm doing this courses on like international tax law, linked to how I'm helping with taxes, to learn more about it, but also with the international aspect that I'm interested in. So whoever you are, whatever your interests are, try to further them. Or I don't know. Yeah, really, I think learning is key. But whatever you need, and if you need to take a few weeks and not do anything for your mental health, then do that too. Like I think it is very case to case. But I would be trying to get yourself out of your comfort zone in a moment that is already hard is really important to also stay sane. I think it's hard if you're following the quarantine and not leaving home. It gets hard, you need to do things. So just try to focus on those things that you really like and see how you can continue improving in them.
That's really awesome. I think definitely keep skilling up, keep learning new things. That's the only way to stay sane. And like every industry is moving towards something new. Like let's talk about like the Zoom platform for a second. Like it literally blew up. Everyone's now doing video chats.
Sure,
like,
about thoughts.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you're seeing us right now. This would have never happened if this was like a year ago. So it's crazy.
And I think something that it might be a bit undervalued, but I value a lot, is having intellectual conversations. So, not necessarily for an end goal, but just to develop your thought. And I feel like, I'm sure you guys didn't come up with this idea by yourself. You were probably, talking to each other and what about this? And then someone else like, wait, but what about this? And I think that is really helpful. So don't necessarily think that, oh, if I'm not taking entrepreneur, ideas, then I'm no good. No, you're amazing. Just, focus on yourself and maybe, talk about politics, the economy, tech, whatever you want. Just talk about it, about what you're passionate to someone that is also passionate about it, or that it's not. And sometimes you realize and find a niche that you might be able to do something in.
That's such great advice. And just talking to your friends about things, right? Me and Sid, we bounce up ideas with each other all the time, and we have all these disagreements all the time. But like I think your friends, it's not just only like hanging out or just having fun, but they're like this great people who are, you could just talk to them about these things and just grow together as a person, right? I think that's amazing. And Bea, I just want to say, I really like how you mentioned mental health there, how mental health is something very important, and especially at this time, definitely something that should be very emphasized on for everyone, and just making sure you're sane and not you're taking care of your mental health as well, as you go about your day.
I also think it's very important to always compare yourself like to yourself and not to others, because you never know what others are going through, and
Exactly.
You're yourself, and because someone else does something doesn't mean you're
You need to
better.
do it.
You're just different, and so I feel like that's why just being aware of yourself and what do you need. Like I definitely had some weeks that for me was really really hard. I just didn't want to leave my bed.
Yeah.
So and and that's what I did. I took time to heal and to feel better, and then I came back 150%. And maybe people need less time, or some people need more, and that's just okay. I feel like that's just very important, especially when you're in a university, in a job that is very competitive.
Yeah.
Just always be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to quickly add there, and I think that's very important in college, just to not compare yourself with what others are doing, in that way. Like they have, like, someone else may have like a 4.0 GPA, they have everything together, like they have some great social life, they have all the campus involvement and everything, right? But you cannot see it through their lens. Like, you have your own path, and I think it's especially like I think that doesn't, like, especially to think like that in college, right? Like, why can't I just copy that person's life in those many ways?
I don't know every university, but I definitely know ours. There was like kind of this sense that if you weren't doing a lot of things, you weren't doing anything.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Like, oh my God, I'm so stressed because of this. But everyone felt the need to be like, I'm stressed, and feel good about being stressed.
Yeah.
being stressed was mainstream for us. It was a thing to do.
I remember, like, when I was like, oh yeah, I'm really happy, people were like, why, what happened? It's like nothing out of the world happened. But I think that it's important to learn to be happy with what you like and not feel the stress. I feel like, I don't know, I'm very passionate about languages, and I think that how you use the language and how it marks your psychological state. And when you say you're stressed and you're stressed and you're stressed, I feel like you get more stressed.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yep. And just to add to that, I think the favorite question of people that go to University of Rochester is either what are you doing this summer, or what are you going to do after you graduate? And those are the wrong questions to ask, guys. Don't ask those questions.
Oh, you're not like at all these big companies. You don't have like your own billion-dollar company. Well, are you even doing it right? Like, no.
Yep.
Right. So one question which I think is very important for all our viewers is international students getting into consulting. I know it's really hard at the moment, especially with sponsorship, stuff like that. So Beatriz, what would you recommend for students that are requiring sponsorship and they're looking to get a job in consulting?
Yeah, so I feel like being aware of what companies are hiring international students or not, because if they're not, there's nothing you can do, right? Like, sometimes they don't hire them, and that's okay. I feel like to not get your high up of like, yes, I'm gonna get this job. First of all, be upfront and say, this is what I need. Like, I need sponsorship, or I don't for 3 years because I have OPT, or I only have it for 1. So I feel like that is very important to first find out what companies are hiring international students. And I think that when you get past that point, if a company hires international students because they believe in it, it might be harder because they might have, they only sponsor X amount of students. Yep. But use that to your favor, right? I feel like you bring such a great diversity of everything, like of thought, ideas, of, I don't know, I feel like I am very passionate about international students. I think that you're an international student, just the fact that you're leaving your family, you're, leaving your friends, your everything that is known to you to come to a different place because you're passionate about something. I feel like that's already something that any company would be lucky to have. So I would say just, be aware of it and embrace it. And, maybe in the interview when you're talking to someone, just talk about it. Talk about how amazing that is.
Yeah. No, for sure. I was going to say, being an international student myself, I think that was one of the biggest challenges. Just leaving all your friends and all.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to jump on to our last sort of takeaway slide. So for getting in touch with Beatriz, go follow her on LinkedIn. People in consulting, they don't usually respond that often because they're super busy, but reach out to a couple of times. Should be more than happy to respond.
Yeah.
And then additionally, go follow us at Careers Uncorked. We'll be posting more content like this. Quick thing. Bear just got back on.
Yay!
Hey, welcome back. But yeah, Bear, we were just talking about you. We were saying you don't respond very often, and if you don't, it's because you're in consulting. So just keep reaching out to you. But yeah, Bear, any sort of things from you to end this off?
Last remarks.
I would say that the main takeaway for me should be to follow your passion, whatever it is, and don't be afraid. I know it can be scary, but just follow it. And I think that if you're doing what you love, in the end, you'll get good at it and succeed at it. And the other one would be to don't fear, ask for help. And in that, I include the three of us. If you have any questions for us, maybe something that, if you asked a question and it wasn't fully answered, or if you have a new question, if you're someone watching this video after the live and you want to know something about any of us, just reach out to us. I can speak for all of us that and me personally, even if I take a bit longer to answer, I will answer. And if you want to talk to me, I will talk to you. So I feel like, yeah, don't be scared. Hopefully this, this time has made you see that we are approachable and that we're happy to help. So yeah, I feel like those are the two things for me.
Most definitely. Thanks so much, Bea, and keep up the great work. I've been watching your cooking content. It's awesome.
Yes. And just want to say, Bea, thank you so much. You've been an incredible friend, peer, throughout college and now, and just being such a helpful person. I know it's been an hour and a half, but it just shows how much we love talking to you, and you're such a great person to just talk to and listen to. So Bea, please just keep being yourself, and you're amazing.
Thanks to you guys for having me and for taking this amazing initiative to help others.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, everyone. We're shutting down.